Alright, my name's Vaniv, and this is the current world record for Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones, any percent category. And we have to wait a minute here, just chill, listen to the music. Alright, here we go. So let's just walk into the fire. That's to manipulate RNG later. No, I'm just kidding. I just walked into the fire. The game sometimes locks your direction. So I was trying to move left or right to stop it, but it just keeps making you walk into the fire. It's really dumb. I wish it was RNG manipulation for archers or something, but sadly it's not. That jump there actually skips a little cutscene that the fountain would give you. And then we do this little tricky wall run to skip getting the first dagger that you normally get. So right, we don't have a weapon now, we're meant to. Yeah, that wall run is called Fish Gutter Skip. Fish Gutter being the name of the first weapon. And it looks kind of weird, but it's pretty easy. You just wall run and then wait a little bit and then wall run again, and then he just gets over there for whatever reason. That animation off the wall might have looked weird. I'll talk about it in a second where it actually makes more sense after this cutscene. Right there was just done because it's a faster animation than normal jumping. The main reason to use it is this, to fall down from higher distances. That's why we call it a safety fall. So that enemy right there are the archers, and they're dicks. But they're really only a problem on this split, because throughout the rest of the game, we just avoid all the enemies. So we do another safety fall there to stun him so he doesn't shoot us back. Thanks for the follow, T-Gums. Commentary, if you can't tell, is added in post. So, yeah, the commentary during the run was no commentary at all because I was kind of nervous. So I decided to do this. The jump is pretty nice. You can jump at the correct distance, so you land on the bottom of those planks instead of walking out. This jump up here, you can actually you see I angled it to the right to save some movement, but you can actually angle it all the way in line with the next beam that you're jumping to, so you don't need to move to the right at all. But it's kind of tricky to go for, and if you mess it up, you're just gonna die, so you don't usually do it. And you see me rolling a lot. That's because Normal walking and rolling are almost the same speed, but if you chain the rolls together by buffering the input, you can like hit the button before the first roll is done, and then buffer the input for the second roll. And you kind of keep going like that. It's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. Then it's slightly faster than walking. Rolling is also nice to do just to like time out your movement, since it doesn't really waste any time. Like before I did that jump to the beam back there, I did one roll, and then I know after one roll I'm ready to go, and here I usually do 4, 2, 3. That time it was 3 because I wasted a bit of time. Yeah, you can kind of use it to space out your movement. That jump was for nothing, it was just the game being stupid. And this is me being stupid here. Oh, I was meant to do another roll before I grabbed onto the ledge, but instead he jumped, so... But it's fine. So this is the most tricky part with the archers, and I actually did that little stagger on the wall on purpose, because it usually stops them from shooting you if they didn't shoot you at all before, which is exactly what happened there, and it worked out. It's almost like if they miss you twice, the game's like, okay, now you definitely have to get hit, but doing that stagger usually helps. But if I were to get hit before that, I would just go normally. Wouldn't do that stagger. This part, this safety fall, is to grab this ledge, and it works because the archer is there. You can't do that on just like any ledge. But since the archer's there, the safety fall targets him, and it moves you over a little bit, and then the prince grabs the ledge. And there's a wall run here you can do to skip using this dagger panel. Saves like a little bit of time, but I find it never works. Like first try, you kind of have to like wall run up it a little bit, and then go for it, so it doesn't really save time, at least not in an RTA setting. That's another example of spacing out movement with rolls. I can just do one roll and then I know I can just wall run and make it. The jumps there are just to time the traps. I'm going to grab this secondary during a roll, nice and quick. Then there's actually a little cutscene that plays there, but if you re-grab the switch, it stops it for whatever reason. It's the only cutscene in the game that works like that, as far as I know, or remember. This room is done pretty much intended, just like specific movement that usually avoids the archers hitting you. And there is a skip you can do, saves like 10 to 15 seconds, where you would jump up and you would actually land on this platform here. But it's incredibly precise, it's not worth going for, at least not yet, unless we can get a better setup for it. If you did it without a setup, it would save probably like 20 seconds. but the setup takes like a long time, and then it's a question if you even get it after that. So it's probably like if you tried to do it, it'd probably save like 10 seconds. But if you were like a task, it would save probably 20. Yeah, that dagger time is really good. Sub 9. Anything sub 9 is pretty good. And now we can start zipping since we have the recall power. Which all zipping is doing an action like throw weapon, double backflip, spamming a lot of inputs such as blocking or little steps like that with the mouse wheel. And what that does is overloads the rewind system, and for whatever reason it increases the distance that it sends you. Like, people usually say upwards of like 10 times what it normally does. And I didn't die there because I was throwing my weapon, and the game won't start the fall timer until you let go of your weapon, because if you're throwing your weapon then you can't be falling, right? So that's why I didn't die. These 3 zips here are collectively called sewer skip, and it took a while for it to even be worth going for. Before it was just like nah, but now it saves like a decent amount of time and it's pretty consistent. Shoutouts to Cribbin and Catalyst for working on it, getting better zips for it, and setups. That's like the biggest reset point. If we get past that, then it's like, okay, we actually have a run started. I only need 1 sand here, but I get 2 in case I mess up the alignment, so I can rewind and try it again. But I believe I got it perfectly. Yeah. You can kind of see the droplet better there. I'm throwing my weapon in the air, so the fall timer doesn't start until you let go of the weapon. I should mention you can't fall infinitely with it, but you can fall as long as the animation of throwing your weapon takes, which is pretty long. I should mention too, you can die from fall damage if you jump too high. You see, like I landed right on the floor there. That's because I released it. Like, I think that was framed perfectly. But if you rewind too long, then you'll just die from fall damage. Waiting for all these movement mistakes to get out of the way. Prince loves to jump off walls like that. It's incredibly frustrating. Surprises you how far away you can actually be from the wall and still jump off it. That's it. Getting that extra sand after the movement error probably was like the same speed, but Zip doesn't save that much time. But I'm so used to doing it that I just automatically went to get another sand so I could do it. And when you see me do a block jump like that, I did it earlier on in a Zip. It's because the jump height is equal to the zipped height with the jump. So I can just zip the entire jump and not die. I don't need to worry about release timing, and doing a block jump is slightly faster than a neutral jump. now we have that sword, which is the red guard sword, and it regenerates your sand, so we don't need to worry about picking them up anymore. For the entirety of the run, we'll keep this sword. And getting that gate gives us a 4th sand, so that's kind of nice. There's no real reason to skip that. It would save like 5 seconds to skip it, maybe. No, probably less than that, because you still need the sword. But having 4 sands is better. Having 4 means, like, since they regenerate so quickly, we're basically never out of sands. And having 4 is nice for rewind tricking as well, because you need 2 to do that trick. And I do that up here, so I'll wait to explain that later. Do it after this chariot section, which are basically auto-scrollers. That area is not loaded just because of the zip that we did to start it, but luckily it just fixes itself. There's like one thing you can do during this chariot to speed it up, which is to go on that right side over there, and you can do a rewind trick and actually get through it and skip this little slow-mo. It only saves a second. It's not worth going for. Yeah, already a minute 25 ahead. Really good pace. So the next zip probably seems like unnecessary. Like, you can just walk up and just do a block roll to get the distance, but it's a little faster to just do this little setup. Since all you need to do is just turn around. You need to wait for the rewind timer anyway. Then you can just do these inputs. It's like slightly more complicated inputs, but it's a way faster setup than lining up the zip up there. And this is the one where I did a rewind trick on, so I'll explain what that is. If you rewind twice to the same frame, it'll access earlier memory and redo something that you did. So for example, if you jump across a gap and then rewind twice to like halfway in that jump, it'll extend the jump. So in this case, I rewound too long, so I died, but then I rewound tricked it actually 2 times. And that saves me, because it accesses an earlier part in the memory where I wasn't dying. I'm pretty sure it was double rewind trick, because usually when you get one, the camera kind of jerks, and that's what it did, so pretty sure I did 2 rewind tricks there to save it. When I did that, I was really confused because it didn't feel like I rewound too long. But yeah, it can vary sometimes with lag. So I ended up rewinding too long, dying, but I saved it, so it's all good. So these zips start to skip a dark print section, which is actually slower. It's slower by like 10 seconds. But in keeping that sword, it saves, I don't know exactly how much, but more time than it wastes here. So it's worth keeping it. And also allows us to keep our cloth costume, so that's good. It was a lot of effort to try to find a way to zip that area in one zip instead of two. But as far as we know, there's really no way of doing it. The triggers are just too awkwardly placed. I almost died there. It was kind of funny. I rewound like so long with the throw weapon that it zipped me forward a bit, and then I started dropping. That's why I almost fell off. So this zip gets you into the hallway before the first boss, Klumpa. And right now the area is deloaded, so we do side rolls back to here, and then ignore that jump, and then going into this corner spawns the arena, but it does not spawn the boss. You need to walk out of this to spawn the boss. That's why we're staying in here to do this zip. And then so we zip that, and then we time the release so that the jump slash puts us in the ground. We fall down, hit another trigger, and then zip that awkward we did to stay over here. And now we're in the boss arena without the boss, which is important because we want to do the zip here. We did that setup found by Catalyst. Thank you very much for that, because without that setup, this zip that I found would be useless. And it's a pretty good zip. It skips having to go down to that area completely and just gets you right across. There is actually an insane zip to get you further, but it probably only saves like a second, and it's just not worth it at all. You zip to a ledge that you grab onto, it's ridiculous. The zip was found by Cribben. Really nice zip. Before we had to do some side roll actions, which not as nice as that. That's like the whole area we skip by having the sword. If we needed to pick one up, then you need to load the enemies there and kill the red guard. These zips are like, they can be kind of annoying because you're in stealth mode, and it's like awkward to turn around when you're in stealth mode because it takes longer to actually turn 180 degrees. That's why I'm kind of like moving around awkwardly. But we get over there eventually. And we don't zip straight to that door, by the way, because there's a trigger back on that platform that I was at. So yeah, that goes for like anything. If you know, if you're wondering like, hey wait, why didn't you just zip straight to point A to point C instead of A, B to C? It's because of load triggers. The zip actually recently changed this zip, just like prior to this run actually, because since I started using a free scroll mouse wheel, I couldn't really do the zip we had before, which was a jump double block roll. So I found this other set of inputs which I can do from move it further away, and then I don't need to do walking steps because I'm far enough away from the furniture and the fountain, so I can just do blocking steps. Or blocking inputs. And then we death abuse here to load a trigger that's like ahead of us in the game. For whatever reason, dying does that, so we don't need to hit it while we're zipping. like to the left, a bit forward there, you can almost see it. Not the trigger, they're invisible, but where it would be. But because we die, we can just zip right across this area. And this zip is, I think it's really cool. We used to like do 2 zips to get up to this visible platform, but I found a way to get up there with 1 zip. And it's kind of precise, but you can usually get it really consistently with some practice. This is the start of skipping another Dark Prince section, which is just all around faster, unlike the other one. That was a wall run extend, which I failed the first time, but it's really simple. You just flash your sword and then rewind like halfway, and it extends for, I don't know why, but it just does. We jump up there to hit a trigger. You know, we don't actually need to gain any height to do the zip, we just need to hit a load trigger. Usually I jump off that curtain and it kind of puts you in a better spot to hit that switch. So it was kind of weird to maneuver around the enemies there. This zip is another one where the zip height is equal to the height you need. But if I did a block jump like I would normally do to save a bit of time, I would actually go a bit too high. So I do a neutral jump so it doesn't kill me. This zip is, I like this zip. It's a lot of like complicated inputs to save like 8 seconds, but it's just great. I love it. Also because it's just really easy. Because even though you're zipping like a lot of weird stuff, like some walking steps like that, the lenience for all the zip distances are really easy. So. So this zip is actually zipping a block roll and that little block on the wall. If I didn't angle the camera correctly, I wouldn't go the correct distance. So coming out here is to skip doing what's called cutscene drop, which you would, like, if you did it normally, you can actually drop on the same frame you hit this cutscene and then skip it, or not skip it, but get down without taking fall damage. But I ended up hitting it during the zip for whatever reason. Normally you wouldn't hit that, see that cutscene, but it's pretty short, so it was all good. The zip, I just use side rolls, just because it's faster. If you wanted to, you could face forward and do a block roll roll, but side rolls are just faster. For this part, there's a trigger that we need to hit to actually load the boss area. Then we also need to land on the platform. So it's kind of tricky to line up, which is why I spent extra time here. But you'll see, like, when I do the first backflip, I'll zip up right where that wall is, the back wall. That hits the first trigger, and then the next part of it just gets you to the end, over to this platform. And it's kind of close to that seam. Can fall out if it's not lined up properly. This is a really easy zip, it just took me a long time to line it up. Mainly because the camera was being annoying. Those wall runs are, it's because of the free scroll mouse wheel. I'm still getting used to it, so if you don't know what that is, you can just scroll the mouse wheel and it'll keep going without you touching it. So I wasn't really used to it, so it was still scrolling as I was trying to move and I was forgetting about it. That's why I do like weird things like that. It's another zip that zips stepping inputs like that. But it's really free. You can just use like a visual on the ground to know how many you need to do. All that movement was just set up for this zip, which you could do it without that setup, but it just makes it a lot more consistent. I don't think I mentioned before, but doing those jump slashes, you can change how high you end up depending on how long you wait to use your sword in the air. So for that zip, you need to time it correctly, so you're at the correct height. So when you do the backflip, it zips through a trigger. The only reasons we use jump slashes are either to get a specific height or to fall through the floor, which is like only used once, I think, for clump the skip, as far as I remember. Lost quite a bit of time on this split. Pretty much all due to just me being sloppy with movement and lining up zips. A zip has a nice setup there. You just fall down and do 2 block rolls, and then you're in the perfect spot to do the zip. right over here, which hits all the necessary triggers to load this dude. And normally this guy is a really easy boss. You just hit him 3 times and then jump on him. But because this game is stupid, sometimes it just doesn't work. So this happened. So finally got him. I was pretty mad at that. It's stupid. So right there, you probably saw it slow down a little bit, and that's why I hit the wall. If you do that whole section without hitting walls, the game decides to slow you down for some stupid reason. I guess because you're going too fast and starts lagging or something. But it's just poor game design. So, to get past this Dark Prince scene, or transition, we actually zip past the load trigger, and then we need to backtrack, which took way too long to do, because I couldn't remember my visual cue on the floor, so I kind of just had to take it slow. And there, you can see the area loaded in. Because the cutscene, their triggers are often layered. So it's like the Dark Prince cutscene and then the load triggers right after it. So if you zip on the other side, you can load the area without turning into the Dark Prince. I love this out of bounds area. You can get down here with a safety fall too. It's kind of interesting. The way we zip across that avoids the enemies from loading, which is nice, so we don't need to worry about them attacking us. And this zip looks really fancy, but it's just zipping the normal way that you would do the area. Just turns out that doing it this way is faster. Even though there is a door that you would need to zip through anyway, but even without that door it would still be faster. Then we start the next chariot cutscene. And I say cutscene because it pretty much is a cutscene. After you've done it 20 times. It's an interactive cutscene. Trying to think of something to say, but there really isn't anything. There's like absolutely nothing you can do to speed this up. No rewind tricks unlike the first one. And even that, it only saves a second. And we're finally at the boss. This is the only boss that we actually like start the fight, but then we're going to immediately zip out of the area. We're gonna wait for a second for the rewind timer, and then go over to the axe dude, and you'll hit us. And that animation is actually like the perfect distance to zip out of the area. So we zip the attack and it pushes us out. And line this little tricky zip up. Gets you into the room that you would be in after watching a cutscene. If I walk to that back door right there, it would trigger the cutscene. So we stay up here, and then we can do all these inputs, which we zip backwards to hit a load trigger, but if we just like came back normally, it would actually crash. So you need to like jump up out of it and then come forward. There's another example of jump slash, and this one you can actually see if you look up on that platform. You can kind of see where when I pop up to get to a specific height right there. You could just do a jump for that, but you would need to release rewind in a pretty tight window to actually not go too high, because there's a platform above you that you can land on. We just zip up the entire elevator with 4 jumps. And this one is really annoying. It's like, you need to do it pretty much if you're doing world record because it saves so much time, but it's also kind of tricky to do. You see all the inputs are kind of, the inputs themselves are hard, then you also have the jump slash to time correctly, but luckily I got them all perfectly. We die here because, as you can see, the area is not loaded. And so the next area of the game is like really far down. It's too far to even drop glitch down. So instead of doing that, we can hit a fade out trigger that's in the middle of this area that would normally take you during a cutscene. So we hit that and then we can run to the edge just to make sure that the load trigger is activated. If it's not, then you would just teleport down to a void and it would soft lock you. This is a really convenient zip. The distance of all that falling is like perfect to get right down here. And it also conveniently lines up so you don't just like fall into a void. These drop glitch zips are pretty easy. You don't need to fall that far, so you can like basically as soon as you see the secondary pop up here in your heads-up display, you have enough time. The aim on this one is you need to be careful, because if you miss the trigger, then you can't really hit it quickly. You would need to zip 2 more times. And this is the darkness, which normally you would get your dad's sword in that cutscene, but since we skip it, we can't see anything, so we have to do this entire area blind. Almost blind. There's a little light from those fountains. And in my previous run, I got lost in this section here, so I wasted like a minute. So just doing that without getting lost saved a minute. Pretty nice. This one scared me because the game lagged a lot right there, so I was confused when to release the rewind, but I got it anyway, so it's all good. And we death abuse here for the same reason as the garden death. The load triggers that are ahead of us, so now we can just zip across the area into the kitchen. Or into the hallway before the kitchen. This area took a lot of trial and error to get to work because the load triggers can be really finicky. I'm actually like, I end my inputs up the stairs like that, because that's where the load trigger is for the area. So by doing it like this, it's guaranteed to be loaded. And it's also faster than other ways to do it, so worked out. Or pretty much like done all the hard parts of the run. The rest of these zips just save like 5 seconds or so. Or little zips, like big ones like this will save more. But they're all really easy. This is the only one that I really messed up, which kind of sucks because it does waste quite a bit of time. but I aimed too far to the left there. So I missed the load trigger, and I knew that because the area before didn't unload, so I needed to fall down here. This zip was kind of scary because I landed right on the vases like that. And if you zip like in the wall past those vases, then the game will crash. That zip is like barely worth even going for. I think it saves like 2 seconds. But it's so easy, it's just like, you might as well just do it. And if you haven't guessed it, we need to fall down there and hit another load trigger that we skipped. And we're at the final area. So this one is like the last zip that could really go wrong. If you mess it up, then the area gets kind of fucked up and it's hard to get to the end. You need to pretty much just do it the normal way if you mess it up. And then up that elevator is the final boss. But there's a load trigger in the air that warps you to the next area, so we just jump straight up to where that is. And skip the boss completely. So now we're done with zipping, because going into this area gets rid of your dagger of time. Now we just need to do this section and then we're done. There's not really much worthwhile to say here, so let's just listen to the cool credits musics from Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. And after some more sloppy movement, we're done. 55, 50. Pretty good. Yeah, hope you enjoyed that. And if you want to know more about speedrunning this game, you can check out speedrun.com. And there's tutorial. Right now there's just the intermediate tutorial, but I'm going to make a beginner tutorial really soon, within like a week of this video. So yeah, thanks for watching, and peace out.